Hey everybody, Alex here for Nerdy Inc., coming at you with another episode of Our Favorite Frontier, the only Star Trek podcast on the internet that's hosted by me and Nick. Hey Nick.
Hey Alex, how are you today?
I'm doing well. We just watched some Star Trek, and now we're going to talk about it. Because that's what we do on this podcast.
Every single week.
Yep. Today we are talking about the episode Heart of Glory.
Captain, communication from Starfleet. They have reported a disturbance in the neutral zone.
Of what nature?
Battle. Quadrant 9, coordinates 070 Mark III. There is no information who is involved. They are asking if we can investigate.
Answer affirmative. Mr. LaForge, laying the course.
Aye, sir. I have no reports of any Federation vessels in that area, sir. Ferengi?
It's a little out of their territory.
Shall we separate the saucer?
Let's get a little more information first.
Course set, Captain.
Speed, warp 7.
Aye, sir. Warp 7.
Engage.
Nick, what did you think of Heart of Glory?
I thought it was relatively entertaining.
I was very excited to hear what you had to say about it because there was a lot of interesting stuff going on in this episode. So I was really, the whole time I was watching, I was like, man, I wonder what Nick's going to think. So give me your thoughts. Give me a full breakdown here.
Well, from what happened, there was a abandoned, what they believe was a Romulan ship, I believe.
Yep.
And they go out to discover that there are Klingons aboard this ship. And when they bring the Klingons back, they discover Worf is on the ship, and they start questioning his decisions to be with humans, and why doesn't he kind of grasp onto his Klingon, identity.
Mm-hmm.
And then he finds out they're kind of war criminals, and then the lead Klingon kind of gets involved on the video screen, and then these guys are, kind of running around the Enterprise, evading justice, and then Worf ends up killing them. That's great.
That it is.
I know that's just a plot breakdown, so that was, I think, my first plot breakdown, so that's fun.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting to see kind of a creepy, eerie thing at the beginning when they go onto the ship and they're trying to figure out what's happening, and seeing through LaForge's eyes. I feel indifferent about that, and I'll get into that later.
Okay.
But you kind of get to see a little bit of what Georgie sees. And then you really get a Worf episode, which I've been really waiting for, because he's the only one I don't believe I've seen any sort of backstory for. So It was really nice to see him have an episode where he was able to star, and then get to see Klingons, which we all enjoy as enemies. I was hoping for a big old bad guy reunion, because there was Romulans mentioned, and Ferengi mentioned, and Klingons mentioned, and I was like, I want there to be a big old super crappy bad guy reunion.
That'd be fun. Well, good news about that is I will tell you that does happen at one point in the show.
That's fun.
Kind of. They don't all get together and say, we're going to team up and take down the Federation, but you see all those groups come together as competing entities for a similar goal. I'll say that much. And it's a good episode. So yeah, the start of this episode, they go over to the abandoned ship and they find the Klingons. And that takes, in my opinion, a painfully long amount of time.
I like the idea of it, but talking about painful amount of time, let's talk about the extremely painful dialogue between LaForge and Picard, talking about Georgie's vision.
Yeah, it's so, Picard, again, is just knocking down a few pegs of my respect level this season, because he's sitting there, he completely forgets about the mission. They're like, yeah, this thing's going to blow up in 5 minutes. Oh, but how do you learn to filter out all of the things you're trying to see?
Oh, what is that?
Picard,
I don't understand.
Focus.
What this object I see. Oh, it's just Riker. Okay.
Yeah, that was the first thing that he should have realized was he sees a person and no one else is freaking out. It's probably Riker. It's not. There's a person over there. Well, Geordi's.
It's his vision. He knows what it is.
No. I'm saying the fact that Geordi isn't freaking out that there's another person.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
It's really painful to see two critically acclaimed actors have probably the worst dialogue together that has ever been recorded.
Yeah, it was really just, and it was so like the time they like, you know, that this was some producer's idea where he says Geordi looks through a visor. What if we see through the visor and we get to see what Geordi sees? Like, it was very clear that that's what they wanted to do. But the problem is, I think they sacrificed a lot of time when we could have been spending with the Klingons and Worf and the crew.
Well, we could have done a thing through Geordi's eyes, and we could have just saw what he saw. But did we need the commentary?
Absolutely not.
That was the issue.
Absolutely
We could have definitely done the exact same thing. We could have done that episode, and they could have been looking through the ship, and they could have been seeing through Geordi's eyes, and they could have just pretended like they've done this a million times, because if you have someone with a vision visor, which I don't know what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it, I feel like they would have utilized this before.
Mm-hmm.
So why is this finally the first time, after all these years of George being on the ship, that they're finally using him for this ability?
Yeah, it's very clearly just like a distraction, like time filler, which is upsetting because I don't feel like they needed to kill time. I feel like they didn't have enough time. So yeah, it was just dumb. It was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was cool because I'm sure either the first time I saw Geordi, I was like, I wonder what it looks like, but it was unnecessary. And you're right, they could have just show it for the audience. It doesn't seem like that hard of technology for them to transport from his visor to the screen. It doesn't seem like him and Data would need to work on a special thing. It seems like that technology should be there. They can warp faster than light, man. Anyway, so we very, very, very slowly work our way to the ship where we get the Klingons, and the Klingons come back to the ship, and it's basically there where the Heart of Glory comes in, which is Worf's allegiance. Now, Nick, how much did you know about Klingon culture?
I know nothing about Klingon culture.
Okay.
I just know they like screaming, "Get out!" That's all I know.
That's true. Okay, that's yes. I took me a sec to remember what quote you're talking about, but you're referring to Search for Spock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Play the clip. Play the clip from Search.
Here's the clip.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Get out!
3,
Get out of there! Get out!
1.
That was good old Christopher Lloyd. So the Klingons, basically what they attempted to illustrate this episode, because they weren't like this that much in the original series. They were just sort of goofy villains in the original series. But here they're trying to illustrate that Klingons are very honor-bound, and they like the hunt, and they are fierce warriors who live by a code. That's what they attempted to illustrate this episode. Did you feel like that came across?
I think so, because they were really up Worf's ass about his upbringing and how he represented them.
Okay.
So I think 100%. I think 100% that came across.
That was my take as well. But however, I knew all that information going in, so I was wondering how much of that actually came across and how much of that did my supplemental knowledge sort of fill in the blanks. So I'm glad
they
that
explained
worked.
it pretty well.
Yeah. So Worf. That's what's interesting, is how it's sort of almost at odds. It's painted to be at odds with sort of the Federation ideals, is that you can't be an honor-bound warrior who likes the hunt while also serving as part of a larger whole, especially an organization that fights for peace like Starfleet. And that's one of the things that I like about Worf's monologue at the end, when he starts talking about how it's not just about the hunt. There's also duty. There's also sort of loyalty. These are all things that go into this sort of honor culture, besides just killing. And that's one of the things I like being illustrated, is how, despite the fact that sort of the noble warrior is a trope that exists all throughout fiction, they do a fairly decent job painting it to still be in a way that their ideology is sort of up for interpretation or can be viewed in several different ways. I really enjoyed that about this episode. The one thing that brought down this episode, in my opinion, which is, despite however much we like Worf and Michael Dorn, everything about his acting was comical this episode.
How you figure? You know him better than I do.
Well, besides having the big unwieldy forehead,
which you can't get over.
Which I can't get over. He's also, the thing about him was he just had these reaction shots that were just, he was just hamming it up. Like right before, obviously we're watching this on Netflix, so we don't have commercial breaks, but it's clear when the commercial break is. And every single time, he would just snap his head, turn, look in a direction, and just hold it there. And like his eye was twitching in one of them, and like he was holding his head, reacting for a comical amount of time. Which I just thought was funny. It's just
like a bad Days of Our Lives type of.
Yeah, it was very, very hammy. Which, I mean, granted, not a whole lot of TNG Season 1 is not hammy, with the exception of Picard, Data, and LaForge. But I just thought, the number of times that it was just sort of, he was just clumsily looking around and reacting to things, I thought was a little disappointing and ultimately sort of made Worf seem goofier than I feel like he should have been. Speaking of goofiness, what do you think of... Well, I've already showed my hand by using that transition. What do you think about the Klingon death ritual? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the fact that they scream?
They scream to alert the dead that a Klingon warrior is coming, and then they just say, no one's in the body now. It's fucking thrown in the dumpster for all we care.
Yeah, I love the guys like, yeah, we don't want it. We'll just take it. But, I mean, that's their culture. That's their culture. I'm not going to tell them no.
Well, you can't tell them no because the show's already made.
Yeah. And, well, we can't tell them no in the future because it's a documentary.
Oh.
You know we're watching a documentary.
You got me.
I got you.
One of the things, the reason I bring this up is because I ultimately want to circle back to the ending again, which is I find the ending to be a little conflicting. I'm conflicted about the ending, which is we know this guy's a criminal. He's committed crimes. He killed a member of the Enterprise and thought about holding a kid hostage until Tasha Yar very blatantly told the crew what's going on. This Klingon is not a good guy, but he gets sort of the honorable warrior's death call funeral thing. And do you think he earned that, or do you think... I found I was a little conflicted about the ending.
Okay, so I mean, so he now my question is, I'm assuming his actions weren't the will of the Klingon, because the captain of the Klingon ship called them criminals as well.
Yeah, they basically went rogue and
so
said,
they've disgraced themselves.
Yes.
To the Klingon.
They basically were unhappy with the pacification of the Klingon Empire and said, we're gonna go not start our own war, but we're gonna go fight our way out into freedom against the will of both the Klingon Empire, the Federation, everybody, just because us two want to do our thing. They kill a bunch of people in their path, up to and including the crew of the Enterprise, and then Worf honors them with this call.
I know what happened. I'm just kind of laying it out.
Yeah.
They did not act in the best interest of their own group. I would imagine if their own, group of rebels did the war cry for his death, but for everyone to do it would have been, it just is not right, because he died without honor because he betrayed his people.
Mm-hmm.
So unjustified.
Good to know. Okay, so that was sort of my my takeaway too. And it reminded me not to take this to like, not to dial this up all the way to 11, but it vaguely reminded me of Osama bin Laden.
What? What's up?
Yeah, which is after he died, it said Osama bin Laden wanted to be buried at sea. and the United States honored that request and buried him at sea. And it vaguely reminded me like that, which is like, Osama, do you really deserve that?
Well, in my opinion, this will be the preliminary for my conspiracy podcast, which I may come out with my friend Brandon.
Okay.
I don't think that they killed him and it's all fake and they put him to sea and made that up.
That's quite a conspiracy you have there.
That's quite a conspiracy I have. I believe they faked that he died to make us feel better.
Well, I'm fascinated to hear your rationale about this. When is this podcast being made?
We're in planning stages. I need to actually get real equipment instead of just recording off the speaker on my computer. Once I sound more professional, then I'll make a professional podcast. Not saying this isn't professional.
Oh, I understand.
My sound quality is inferior to yours.
And it's going to stay that way.
And it'll stay that way even when I get better equipment.
I will purposely downgrade your sound so you're not as good as me. That's not true.
Can't wait until you're on the conspiracy podcast, which is unnamed and nothing. It's really nothing.
It should be
Yeah.
Hold on, it's coming to me. Invasion of the Podcasty Snatchers.
The Invasion of the Podcasty Snatchers? Alex, even for Rick and Morty, that's a rough name. That sounds like something right out of Rick.
Well, I'm trying to think of like, because in Invaders of the Body Snatchers, the people come out of pods. They're like pod people. Okay. And so I was trying to tie it back to like podcasting, pod people, but it didn't work.
Yeah. Do you want to just end this before you embarrass yourself anymore?
I suppose. So that was our thoughts on Hearts of Gold. Good episode, good
glory.
ideas.
Hearts of Glory.
Just a little.
Not Hearts of Gold.
What did I say?
Hearts of Gold.
Oh no, Heart of Glory.
It's not a Neil Young tribe of Klingon.
God, I would kill myself. I don't like Neil Young, if anyone is wondering. Yeah, so that was Heart of Glory. Good episode, good ideas, interesting. Little slow at the start, very slow at the start, little clumsy, but ultimately interesting because we finally got to see some good Worf stuff. Join us next week when our episode will be The Arsenal of Freedom. Nick, we're working our way through season 1. We are almost done.
Thank God.
We are almost done. I'm very excited for some of the things to come. Well, I'm very excited for all the things to come because they can't be any worse than this. There's only one episode that's worse than season 1, and we're going to skip it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
We're going to skip the episode?
Yeah, we're going to skip an episode.
What do you mean?
I will explain to you off camera, and I will explain to the viewers when we actually skip it.
Oh, we're filming these too?
Listen, shut up! Anyway, that's the episode. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe. All that good stuff is much appreciated, and we will see you next time.
Safe travels.
Our Favorite Frontier is hosted by Alex Russo and Nick Caladona, edited by Alex Russo, and produced by Nerdy Inc. Be sure to follow us on YouTube to catch all of our videos, as well as like us on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other social media we have.